Hi there guys, and welcome to today's live stream. I do apologize, this is a little bit later than planned. We had a Instagram live stream with Lawrence on our Instagram, so we'll put a handle to that in today's description, just so you guys can go check that out, because I'm going to cover a little bit of that in today's live stream. And then again, as always, we've got our question and answer round for you guys at the end of this video. So the first bit for me is going to be a little bit briefer, a little bit more brief today, but we'll cover a few interesting concepts, and just bear with me one moment. Get the window. We'll cover some sort of interesting concepts today with regards to your lower back and how you can better understand it. And I think the main purpose of today's live stream is really to just help you understand your own lower back a little bit better, and that will reinforce some of the stuff that we've mentioned before, so that you can make the right decisions when it comes to your lower back and looking after it. So as we've discussed before, I'll pick the spine up here. So with the spine, we've got our belt that sort of would sit across here, the trousers. We've got those two bony dimples that are down here at the base of the lumbar spine, and then we've obviously got the curve of the lower back, and then the tummy is sat just here. And in the lower back, we should have this natural smooth curve to it, and there's ligaments along the back here and ligaments along the front that maintain this natural imbalance, this natural curve, shorter on the back, longer on the front. And in the live stream today, we're talking about an Olympic track to start with, and you'll have to forgive my artist's impression today, but what you can see is that the lane 1 is a much shorter distance than lane 8, even though this track only has 3 or 4 lanes, but nevertheless the distance is longer on the front than it is on the back, and that is borne out in this image here. So when we're doing any activities, any stretching, etc., and understanding how we're using our body on a daily basis, we want to take this stuff into account. And you'll see in the final image on the end here that when we're sat down badly, the back portion arguably can sometimes even be longer than the front portion, and the impact on this is really in these ligaments here, that they will start to stretch and creep, and that affects the integrity of this suspension and shock absorbing mechanism to the lower back, so it can't absorb shock as well. Not to mention the fact that that puts a lot of pressure through the discs on the front when we're in this position over here. So bear that bit in mind, because what I'm going to talk about now is really comes into looking after your back and interpreting the signals from your lower back correctly, so that you don't do the wrong things and you do more of the right things. And this is discussed in a little bit more detail on our membership site on the backinshapeapp.com, so you can check more stuff out there as well. But in essence, people, when you're sat nowadays during the lockdown, people are sat down for longer periods and unfortunately getting into this sort of position. And what we can see here is that the distance from A to B on the back is much, much longer than it otherwise should be. That's to say that the muscles here are going to be stretched out. And as they're stretched out, that exerts more compression through here, but also those muscles become tight, they become tense. And we often feel that, and this is the big mistake, that you need to stretch those muscles out more. And that really makes this situation a lot worse. So today's main bit of advice is remember to think about your spine as this bend on the Olympic track. It's a little bit more detailed than that, and we talk about that on X-ray analysis with patients. But that understanding will be sufficient to know that the difference between that and that is quite stark. And therefore, when we feel that tension in our lower back, we want to do 2 things. Number 1, the muscles that run through here are continuous with the muscles in the lower leg. We separate them out primarily for anatomical reasons and education, but really they all blend together and function as a continuous unit. So we want to keep those hips nice and mobile. We want to do a bit of hamstring stretching. We discussed in a few lives ago that there are sensible ways to do our hamstring stretches that focus stretch to the hamstring rather than the spine. So that's really important, and go back and check out that live stream if you want a little bit more detail on those particular hamstring stretches. So that's the first point. We might want to get a bit of ice down here, as we've discussed numerous times before, for 3 to 5 minutes. And just over this central point, find those 2 bony bits at the base of your spine, come up about 1 inch, and that's where the ice should go. Use your trousers to tuck it down the waistband and hold it in place. Don't stand there twisted for 5 minutes holding it in place, because that's not going to help you. On a little side note with regards to the icing, when you're doing icing, it's completely normal to feel a little bit stiff after you finish the icing, because things are a little bit colder. The muscles don't necessarily like the cold that much, but it helps with the inflammation. So don't be alarmed by this. Just stay with good posture. Allow that curve to take place, like you can see on the first image just there. Make sure that curve stays place. Stand with good posture, and slowly as your body returns to normal temperature, that flexibility will start to return. The final one is using that towel exercise. Now I'll have to lift this up for you guys today because I did it a little bit too low, but you can see on here we've got the towel exercise. Why does the towel exercise work? And I did this example, I think, on the bands exercise for the neck. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now. But when you're lying on the rolled up towel here, this spiral is the rolled up towel, it puts a straight upward force through the lumbar spine and allows the spine to be stretched properly through this section of the lower back, and that has the effect of unloading all of these discs nicely because we've got a bit of a stretch, so taking pressure off those discs. And disc injuries like slip discs, bulging discs can lead to things like sciatica, etc. So that's a helpful phenomenon. The second thing is, if we turn this on its side, it still looks like that alignment that we saw earlier up the top here. We've still got that natural curve to the spine, so we're going to be putting a little bit more stretch through the front than the back ligaments, and we're not going to disrupt that natural ligament balance that otherwise should remain in place. So that's a really, really important principle. And that towel exercise, we do that for 3 to 5 minutes at a time, and then you just simply roll off. Now there's a video on the YouTube channel that shows you guys how to do this. I think it's titled lumbar disc stretch or something like that. We can always post a link in the description to that one as well after we finish this video, so you guys can check it out. But that would really be a good exercise for more or less everyone to do. I went for a run this morning. As soon as I got in, rolled up towel, on we go, just to unload that spine a little bit. So it'd be sensible for you, whether you're doing running in the morning or whether you're struggling to get out of bed with back pain, that exercise is really helpful. But if you can understand this principle here and how your spine should be, you won't do things like knee hugs. You won't do things like touching your toes, those sorts of exercises that put extra pressure on those structures on the back here that are already working way too hard. You'll understand that actually what works a lot better is to provide them with respite by putting them back to this position. This is why a lot of us are getting uncomfortable, because we're sat in chairs right now, or sat on the bed or on the sofa, not able to move as much. So try your best to move a little bit more. Focus on these principles, how your spine should work, and remember that when it's not working so well and you're feeling that tension because of this alignment, we want to bring you back to here. We don't want to make this worse by stretching it even more. The most common misunderstanding of tension in the lower back is that there is tension there that needs further stretching, when in actual fact you need to take pressure off those poor, overworked, overstretched muscles so they can have a little bit of respite. And that's really the main takeaway from today. We don't want you guys doing any of those exercises that bend forward to make that last bit worse. So that's pretty much it. It's a little bit of a shorter one today, guys. I do apologise for that. But definitely go over to Lawrence Price's Instagram account. We'll post that in the description below.
1 hour.
We were on there for about an hour. My phone overheated, started going way too hot. So it's definitely worth you checking that out, because we talk about this and also take some more questions on there, which will hopefully really help you guys out. So we'll be back in tomorrow at 1 p.m. Go ahead, question.
Is there any particular way that I can improve my sitting whilst I'm working?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I should have covered that one. So yes, one thing that I don't right now, because we've kind of been in a bit of a rush to get today's setup switched over from Instagram to the Facebook and YouTube. But get that rolled up towel. Sit with your bum in the back of the chair. So if I show you guys with the spine, we want that towel to be right here in the middle portion of the spine, right there, rolled up a little bit tighter than this. And then your bum is in the back of the chair, so we're sat in that position nice and upright. Using the towel will just help you get your bum, the meat of your bum touching the chair, right back. Get that towel, place it behind your lower back, and then sit up, and you'll feel that it's putting that pressure through the same way as we saw in that image. It's supporting in this part here. If you put it too low, that's going to create problems. And on this particular topic, I think we had some good pictures the other week, didn't we, of me sat in the chair with the towel in place and not. So definitely check out that live stream. But using the towel underneath or in the lower back to support that lower back with your bum in the back of the chair and sitting upright is by far the sort of the best recommendation, especially if you don't have very good chairs right now to support that lower back, if you're working on sort of dining table chairs, etc. But do remember, if you use the towel, you can just as easily sit badly, and you'll see that on the other live stream where we've got the actual pictures of me doing it. It's a little bit more difficult to organize here, but you'll see that you can sit just as badly with the towel. So you do have to have that concerted mental effort to sit up straight, but with the towel in your lower back, it does make it an awful lot easier. On me anyway, sat up like this, and you should probably find the same sort of thing. But do be mindful, sitting up straight the same way as sitting in any position, it does get a little bit fatiguing. We need to move more. So another thing that helps me, you may not be able to do this yourself, depending on how good your knees are, is kneeling. So I alternate between sitting on the chair with towel, kneeling, etc., and just moving around a lot more. Even though I am pinned to the desk doing work on here, making those little changes really helps. Being fidgety really helps decrease the load on your spine when you're sat down for long periods at the desk at home. Any other questions?
That's it for today.
Awesome. Well, I hope you found that sort of very impromptu live stream helpful. And please actually let us know in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. Do you find the previous live streams that we've done, where we've got a little bit more interaction on the screen, more helpful or less helpful than going through it on the whiteboard behind? I'd love to hear you guys' feedback, because then we can tailor things so you can get more out of it. And if you guys have any more detailed questions when we're going through these, then we can always use the board anyway to really help you guys understand exactly what we're talking about. So look, do post that in the comments below. We love your feedback, and we'll do what we can to make this even more valuable for you guys. Until next time,
back tomorrow,
see you.
1 o'clock.
Back tomorrow, 1 o'clock.
On time.
And there's no curveballs that we're going to be throwing for that one. So see you then. Have a great afternoon, and thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in.